academic counseling. I hope you all have started downloading and studying your study material or not. You downloaded the study material from LMS portal or not?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but
Okay.
Yes, downloaded as well.
Okay. So now let me
Yes, we have.
start it formally. I welcome all the learners in the world's largest university, Indira Gandhi National Open University. Proudly, I can say it's world's largest university, and so many other qualities are there you have learned through various other meetings. And this is your first academic counseling session for MBA OL MMPC 002, which is Human Resource Management. We have our academic counselor, Dr.Rasmeet Kaur here. She is a renowned academician. She has working experience of more than 14 years of teaching, and she has got Young Scientist Award also in international conference, as well as she has published so many papers. She has done a major research with UGC, major research project. It's a very honorable thing in India to have a major project in funding from UGC. So, and she is associated with IGNOU from quite some years, and we are taking her services for national students and now for international students. So I hope very best for these sessions, and enjoy your learning journey with her. I request Dr. Rasmeet Kaur to please start your session.
Thank you so much, Smriti ma'am. I hope I'm audible and visible to all of you.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so welcome to all the dear learners. Ma'am has already introduced me, and she has already said that I am going to take your academic counseling for the subject Human Resource Management. So before we begin with today's counseling, I request all of you to please keep yourself on the mute mode when required. If anything is asked, or if you want to say anything in between, you are requested to please write it in the chat box or unmute yourself, and then we can do the discussion. Firstly, to begin with, I would just like to brief you that for this subject, that is human resource management, if you might have referred your e-Gyan Kosh, which is a very, very good, I would say, e-content, which is available for all the subjects, which IGNOU has really worked very hard in preparing the e-content, and your entire content is available on e-Gyan Kosh. So this subject is divided into 4 different blocks. So in these 4 blocks, I'll just introduce you first, as it is our first session, first academic counseling. So I would just like you to know more about that. What are these blocks in which we are going to cover the entire syllabus? As it is an academic counseling, I would like to have an interaction even from your side. I'll brief you about a concept. I'll try that I can share as much as I can related to that concerned area in human resource management. But as because of the paucity of time and the classes or the counselings which are given to me, I will not be able to cover each and everything in detail. So I'll try to talk about the entire content. To begin with, let's talk about what is block number 1. Just give me a minute so that I can share my screen with you. And as you see the screen, just
I
let me
mean,
know.
I'm having my lecture, so you online must subscribe.
Uh,
Share.
just a minute.
Kofi, are you trying to say something?
Sorry.
Okay, please mute it. Okay.
Yes, mom.
And one more rule is there that you cannot share any link in the chat box, any type of link. And all of you, please give your attendance in the chat box. Now you can proceed, Dr.
Yes,
Rasmeet.
ma'am. Ma'am, is the screen visible to all of you?
No. No, right now, yes, yes. No,
Yeah.
it's presenting. But
Okay.
it's looking a bit smaller.
Just a minute, ma'am. Now is it okay?
Um, are you presenting the window or
No, I'm
screen?
presenting the entire screen. You want me to
Okay.
present the window? I'll present window.
Actually, it's looking a bit smaller. If you want,
Just a second, ma'am.
we can enhance the size.
Just a moment.
And I'm very much here. If anything, any issue happen, you can call me, Rasmeet.
Sure, ma'am. I'm trying to share now the window so that it becomes more visible. Ma'am, is it visible now? Anybody from the
It's
learners?
okay.
It's
It's
okay?
okay. We
Okay.
can see whatever you're displaying, and people have the content on their phones or their laptops.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rian. So let us just begin with, as I was just talking about, related to the blocks and the content what we are going to cover in this for this particular subject. As you can see, that the entire syllabus of management, human resource management, is divided into four blocks. The first block is about introduction to HRM. So in this block, it is divided into three units, and we will be talking about what basically human resource management is, what is its concept, how has this concept evolved over so many years or over the past years. Then unit 2 is all about functions of human resource management. This is very very important unit, because this gives you a clarification about what are the different operative functions and the managerial functions which are covered under human resource management. And also, if you have a clarity of this, that is the functions of HRM, the coming chapters or the coming units will become very easy for you. Unit 3 is about environment and HR. When we talk about environment, so there is an internal and external environment where the business operates. So, how do we link environment and human resource management? That is all about in Unit 3. Then the block 2, if I talk about, it is all about sourcing of HR. That means in this block, we will be more talking about four different units, which is on HR planning, job analysis, design and evaluation, recruitment and selection, and socialization and mobility. As I just said few minutes back, that if suppose I talk about functions of HR and you are able to understand the functions very clearly, the coming units will become easy for you. So this first, the second block which is there, that is sourcing of human resource. That is the first function of HR, which is called as the procurement function also. So what basically procurement is, we also call that as employment function. How is procurement done? How do you do manpower planning or human resource planning? Further, what is job analysis? How do you design the entire jobs? What number of people, kind of people are to be recruited in the organization? What is their skill set, knowledge level, which is required to do that particular task? That is all about in this block. So how they get selected in the organization, what are the different types of sources of recruitment and selection method, And finally, when they are placed in the organization, so how do you induct them? How do you create that kind of a socialization with them? That is all about in the block 2, which is covered till unit 7. Third block, if I say, it is about the performance and compensation management. Again, it is one of the functions of HRM, which is called as the compensation function. This compensation function is basically all about that if people are working with you in the organization, so how do you compensate them? So if I want to compensate, that means the wage and the salary. I need to give them wages and salary. So how this wage and salary structure is defined. Prior to that, how do you do appraisals of the employee, which is called as performance appraisal or employee appraisal? So that is all about in unit 8. Unit 9 is about career development. So career development, if I say, people, those who are working with you, the human resource which is working with you, how do you plan out their career development paths, right? So that is all unit 9 about. And finally, if I talk about training and development, that is also one of the functions of HR, which talks about the existing employees, how are they trained, what different types of trainings are provided to them, how do you check the effectiveness of a training program, what is the relationship between the cost and the benefit what you get in a training program. That is all about in unit 10. We'll also cover in that how these two terms differ with each other, that is training and development. And the unit 11 is all about compensation and reward management. So more specifically, if I talk about 11 unit is all talking about wage and salary administration. So how do you talk about, how do you define wages? How do you decide the salary of the employees? On what grounds are they given rewards, incentives? What are the different ways of doing these calculation? That is all covered in unit 11. Fourth block is all about the industrial relation, which is also called as the relationship between the employer and the employee. So if you will look at the units which are given in block 4, it talks about employee empowerment. That means the existing HR which is working with you. What are the different ways in which you empower that employee? What are the different methods in which you boost his or her morale? Because it is something which is very directly related with productivity. So that is what is unit 12 all about, which is a part of block 4. Unit 13 and 14 is all about that if employees are working with you and they have certain grievances, that means they have any kind of a dissatisfaction or they have any complaints. So how do you handle them? If there is any kind of an indiscipline which happens in the organization, as it is a subject which is dealing with human resource. So what are the disciplinary methods and procedures or practices what the management actually opts for if there is any kind of a grievance or an indiscipline in the organization? That is covered in unit 13. And lastly, if I talk about unit 14, it is all about trade unions and associations. So when we talk about people working in at the industry level or the factory level, and you have workers with you, you have trade unions with you. So what are the laws related? I wouldn't say exactly in the terms of law we are going to cover this area, but yes, definitely what are the what is the relevance of union, why are these union formulated, and what are the types of activities or the support which the union provides, these associations which are made in the management, they provide to the management and to the employee. So this is a kind of a brief introduction about all your blocks which I have given you. And the reason why I have shared this with you in the first class of mine is because we will be having 4 academic counseling sessions with you. Like if I talk about myself, I'll be interacting with you 4 times. So I have planned that we'll cover each block in every academic counseling. So today, being the first class of mine, the first academic counseling session, we will cover block number 1. Am I clear till here to all of you?
Yes, clear, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it is clear.
Okay. Uh,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
any?
Today.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very clear.
So let us just. Okay. My prime intention, as I said, was to first give you an orientation that what is this subject all about and how we are going to cover the academic counseling sessions. As I just said, these are divided into 4 blocks and we'll be taking them block wise. So my request is that whenever you come for the academic counseling session, I'll let you know well in advance that for next day or the next academic counseling session, which block we are going to talk about. So if possible for you, just read out, some content from that particular block so that we can have a more of interactive class. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let me first ask you, as just a basic question, that what according to you is your understanding about human resource?
Human resource is managing people according to their position or skills.
Okay, I completely take that. Any other answer? Anybody else from the class who can just give me uh, any meaning of what HRM means?
My understanding is that it means
It is to
managing.
be something which comes from directly from your mind, that yes, this is what is HR according to my understanding. Layman's language.
My understanding is it's managing resource, as in people, in your organization, to do the best work they can for the organization goals.
Yes, I completely take that. Thank you for your answers. And if I talk about what basically HRM is, so as you just said, managing human resource. The subject in itself is talking about managing the human resource. So it's basically a process which deals with acquiring of people, developing these human resources in your organization, maintaining them, and to retain them in an organization so that the company or the organization can achieve its strategic goal or the organizational goal for what or for which the organization has actually been formed for. So HR, if I talk about and if I divide these words, what human resource and management means, so human basically means organizational workforce which is required to do a particular task for the management. Resources basically which is said to be as the workforce supply, that means the number of people, those who are there with you, who are helping you to achieve the organizational objective. And management basically means that how efficiently by the HR which is available with you, how you can give them directions, how you can plan things with them so that finally the organizational goal is achieved. So human resource management is a very, very interesting subject because it is something which is connected or which deals with the human resource, the manpower which is working, right? As I just said, in the first module of ours today, we will be in the first block rather, we will be talking about introduction to HR. So I'm just sharing your e-content only, which you have with you, so that it becomes easy for you to refer that particular content later. Okay, is the screen visible to you?
Expanding.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
it is.
okay, thank you so much. So if you want, you can also simultaneously open that e-content which is there on e-Gyan Kosh, and that will become easy for you also to connect with what I'm saying. If you have any problem related to the visibility, as I just said, that human resource management is basically a process of acquiring, which is also called as procurement, which is called as to find out the best person having a proper skill set, knowledge, and ability to do a task, to develop them in the organization. That is, development is a very, very broad, I would say, term. I can also say to train and develop them. I'll just let you know how these two terms differ with each other. To maintain the HR with them in the organization, so there are different types of welfare, I would say, schemes or plans which management comes up with so that the HR in the organization is happy, their morale is high, their productivity comes, they get able to give them different facilities, so that the ultimate goal is children, learners, that retaining them. Retain means you want to hold that HR in the organization. You don't want that the HR should leave the organization and go, because again, finding a person who is fit to do a particular job in the organization, or who's an asset to your organization, it is going to involve huge cost for the management as well. So management does not want to involve again in the same process of finding, recruiting people. So what do they do? The entire HRM as a subject, as a, I would say, as a kind of a stream, talks about having people, developing them, maintaining them, retaining them in the organization, so that management can get the organizational goals for which the organization is working. There are certain definitions of HRM. I'm not reading out those definitions for you, because, as I said, we have paucity of time and I need to cover the entire block today. So I request you at your end, just go through these definitions and it will give you more, I would say, clarity related to the content. Coming down in that content, let us just talk about how the concept of HR has evolved. This word human resource management, if I talk about, has evolved over past many years, and it was first in the Hawthorne studies when this word was given emphasis on. That is, what is the influence of human resource on the workers' productivity. Hawthorne Experiment was a study which was done by Alton Mayo, and he has conducted this study in the year 1920. It is one of the very, very famous studies in the field of human resource, which talks about how the HR and it is connected with productivity and the work environment. So if we talk about the people, those who are working with you in the organization, there are times where you give them money, where you give them different facilities, where you give them, different kinds of all welfare things. But still, if we talk about the HR productivity, how does the entire work environment, not only the formal group, but how the informal group, has an emphasis or has an impact on the human resource management, and how does it affects the productivity? That is all the, I would say, the base of the Hawthorne study. Many of the researchers like Henry Fayol, F.W. Taylor, they have come up with different types of schemes related in the management of HR. They have developed compensation schemes or compensation system, which is also learners called as that if you reward your employees. So what kind of this compensation method should be there? We say differential compensation system should be there. What do we mean by this differential compensation system? Can any one of you just tell me what do we mean by this term differential compensation system?
I think it refers to rewarding employees based on their performance, so that people don't pay. People are paid according to how they have performed.
I
Top
completely
performers are paid well.
Yeah, I completely take your answer, because what you have said is absolutely correct. That when we talk about the differential compensation system, it says the employees, those who are working in the organization, they are paid as per the nature of the job. It is not a common compensation system or a reward system which is given to the employees irrespective of their performance level, irrespective of their grade, irrespective of the nature of job they are performing. So when we say it is differentiated compensation system, that means the employees are rewarded as per the performance, as per the level, as per the nature of the job, what they are doing in the company. So that is what is also something. So from there, when F.W. Taylor and Henry Fayol, they came up with these management principles, from there itself, this concept of HR started evolving. But the complete evolution of HR, if I talk about, it was not from that particular stage. It was later in the stages where the HR concept was called as by different names. What are those different names? If I say initially the human resource working in the organization, somebody wants to say something.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes. Yes, Hasan.
What difference between human resource and manpower?
Manpower and human resource, if we say, they are synonyms to each other, because when we talk about HR planning or manpower planning, it is one and the same thing. Human resource is also the HR which is working with you, which is actually the manpower which is working with you in the organization.
Okay.
Asad Mustafa, can we proceed? I hope
Yeah.
I am able to clarify your question.
Yeah, I received.
Okay. So, as I was just talking about the different concepts of HR which has evolved, there was a concept of HR which was called as the commodity concept. We all understand what is the meaning of commodity. Commodity is, like kind of a thing, what we buy and what we sell. If I want to buy anything, it's a common, like buying a mobile phone is a commodity. Buying a laptop for myself is a commodity. So it is very easy for me to buy and sell. So even HR was also considered as commodity in the organization. Initially, I'm talking about the first, how the HR, we will be discussing about how the entire concept has evolved, how it has changed. So in the initial time, I'm talking about the era before Industrial Revolution. It was where labor was considered as only a commodity, that you can easily hire them and you can easily fire them from the organization, and they were treated more like machines and not like manpower or men working in the organization. Then what happened? Slowly, this concept got dissolved, and a new concept came in, which was a concept which was given by F.W. Taylor in his study, what he has done related to scientific management, where he actually stressed upon that among all the factors of production. I hope you understand what are the different factors of production.
Yes, ma, we do. We understand what factors of
Yeah.
production.
So factors of production are
Yes.
land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur.
Capital and
Yeah, capital, land, labor, capital, and the entrepreneur. So if we talk about the factors of production, this labor has been introduced later in the factor of production concept. Initially, if we used to discuss about what are the factors of production, I'm talking about the era of F.W. Taylor. That time it was only land, material, which is also called as raw materials, or if I talk about any material resources, and machinery or capital, that was regarded as the factor of production. But then came the concept of the factor of production concept, where human resource was given that regard, that as land is important, as material is important, as capital is important in the organization, same manner employees are equally important as one of the factors of production. So this was how they see. Now the entire thought process is changing. If we talk about the evolution of HR, initially HR was considered as a commodity, then slowly it was given a regard as one of the factors of production, because it was understood that if you do not give them that regard, you will not be able to get the maximum productivity from the human resource. Then came the concept of paternalistic concept. Paternal means like a father. So if I talk about the paternalistic concept, it was that employers assured, basically, like a father protects a family. He has a certain attitude towards his family members. Same manner, it was a concept which came that employees working in the organization are also under, I would say, the protective hands of the employer, where employer is playing the role of a father, protecting the family. So employer protecting the employees working in the organization. So that attitude, evolved, it changed. So if you look at now, if I say from commodity changed to factor of production, and from factor of production, it then evolved to the concept of paternalistic. Then came humanitarian concept. Humanitarian concept was here when as I was just talking a few minutes back about the Hawthorne experiment. So in this era or in this time, there were researches which were done. Professor Douglas, MacGregor, Alton Mayo, these are those people who have contributed during this era, and they came up with certain beliefs that human resource, the HR which is working with you, has certain social and psychological areas which needs to be given due importance. So it is not that you can treat them as only machines, but it is where you have to understand that the HR has certain own, their problems. Their personal life cannot be separated from their professional life. So then this was on the grounds of humanitarian concept came in, where different approaches came that how you can be considerable to the human resource working with you. Then came the behavioral HR concept. This is basically the era when we realized that the human resource working with you has certain behavior, and every individual or the HR which is working has a different personality altogether, has a different learning altogether, has a different, I would say, level of motivation, and that needs to be understood. As I just have discussed with you, differential compensation system, same manner, if I talk about behavior, people working in the organization have different personality, different attitude, they have different learning skill, learning ability, and their behavior varies from one individual to the other. So this concept of HR, when it was evolved, it basically aimed at understanding human behavior, to understand how you can motivate each one of them. That is also a time where you might have studied about Maslow's need hierarchy theory. He has given a need hierarchy that any HR which is whose physiological needs are not satisfied, which is called as the basic needs, you can motivate him or her by fulfilling his basic needs. But the one who is already satisfied with security, physiological, social needs, and you want to motivate him, you need to understand which need he or she is standing. So this changes from one individual to the other. Also during this time, that is the behavioral HR concept which came, it was more about that people cannot work in as individuals, they work in groups. So there are different, I would say, roles of groups, group dynamics is there, why people join group, what is the impact of these groups on their productivity, what is the impact of organizational climate, what is when people are working in group, definitely they'll have certain grievances, they'll have dissatisfactions, and it will affect the productivity as well. So efforts should be made in this order, that how the management can overcome these areas, these issues, so that they can have more of the satisfaction of the human resource working in the organization. So then evolved two-way communication process. Then it was where the concept of MBO, which is called as management by objective, that more of participative approach should be there of the human resource. What is the role of informal groups in the organization, that evolved. I hope all of you understand what are formal and informal groups. Again, I would like to ask and get an answer from my learners. Can you tell me what is a formal and an informal group?
The difference comes in such a way that the formal group is where you have the formal teams at the office, where you have, for instance, the HR manager, HR officer, and their secretaries. That's the formal group. Informal group is where you have people unlike people in the same department, but people interacting within the organization.
Very good. Very apt answer. I repeat that concept again. If I talk about formal and informal group, the major difference between these two is that formal groups are created or made by the management, by the organizational heads. And if I talk about informal groups, they are created by the people who are working in that organization. It could be, if I talk about informal group, it could be the informal group which is created out of, let's say, interest. People having same interest level, people belonging to same community, people having same similar, I would say, taste, or people having a similar kind of orientation, thoughts, wavelength if it matches. So you will have that, you make a kind of a informal group with the people, those who are working with you in the organization. Management does not places you in that informal group. That informal group is made by the human resource working in the organization, whereas formal group is completely opposite. A formal group is a group which management makes and places you. Is the meaning clear? What is formal and informal group?
So ma'am, informal
Yes,
group.
yes, it's understood.
Okay, so we'll move further.
Yeah, yes.
So I was just talking about how these concepts of HR has evolved. So if you just go back to what few minutes back I said that initially it started with commodity concept, then came your factor of production concept, then the third one, which was the paternalistic concept, humanitarian concept. You have now, with the evolution of HR, we had the concept where more of behavioral areas were given consideration. That is two-way communication, management by objective, which is also called as that while you are fixing the objectives, it is an interaction between the management and the subordinates. So superior and subordinates coming together, and then they have they mutually decide what are going to be the objectives. So realistic goals are planned for the employees to achieve. So that is something what is the entire behavioral human resource concept is. Today, if I talk about the emerging concept of HR, if we say, it is more of a concept where we say that the HR is considered as an asset. Asset means the HR which is working with you, you treat them as the asset. They are of worth to you. You don't want to lose them. You want to retain them in the organization. So you also come up with different, welfare schemes. It is a concept where we say that you are giving ownership, also offering ownership to the HR in the forms of the ESOPs, that is giving them the stock membership of the company so that they are the owners of that particular company or organization where they are working. So this is how, the HR, look at the difference, how it has changed. What actually initially, when we talk about human resource, what was the consideration given to the HR? And today, if I talk about as an emerging concept, it is changing in such a wide manner. So in India, if we say, or if I talk about even abroad, this HR concept has evolved where now emphasis is given to the human resource. So it is not only that you treat them as machines, but you treat them now more as the asset which is working with you, and you want to retain them, and you are trying to, we try actually by doing proper HR management, that the rate of attrition should always be low and rate of retention should always be high. Attrition, if I say, that means the level of mobility of employees. If a person is leaving the organization because of any reason, let's say it is poor leadership, or let's say it is because of the salary or the compensation which is given is not fair, let's say the appraisal system is not transparent, or let's say you're not offering him or her good growth or development opportunities. So the HR will not be a part of that organization, and the human resource or that individual will look for another best organization offering him or her good opportunities. So if this rate or this percentage of leaving the HR from the organization continues, we say that it is the attrition rate that the HR is leaving very frequently. Higher is the attrition, then we say that the climate of the organization is not fit, the organization is not healthy, and that's the reason people are not able to work in that organization. You are losing them, you're not able to retain them. And if I talk about retention, that is completely an opposite concept, which says higher is the retention rate. That means you are able to attract the human resource which is working with you. You are able to hold them by giving them good facilities, by giving them good opportunities, by providing them good, like I would say, different satisfactions related to their job, salary, climate, and everything. So they would love to be a part of your organization. That is what we mean by attrition and your retention. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
I am
Yes,
in
it is
between.
clear.
Yeah, I am in between trying to give you the understanding of different vocabularies in HR, what we use. Like attrition is a very common vocabulary. Retention, employee retention is again another common vocabulary, what we use. So anytime when I say attrition, that means people are leaving the organization, mobility of the HR from one organization to the other in the same industry. Again, I repeat, higher is the attrition ratio. That means organization is not fit, organization is unhealthy. The people are not happy, they are not satisfied. That's the reason they are moving. Whereas when I say retention and I say employee retention is higher, the retention ratio is higher, that means organization is healthy. You have more number of people with you, they want to be a part of that organization, they are with you for a long duration, long period of time, and that creates a very I would say goodwill of the organization. So when you study about any organization, these are two areas which are studied, that is attrition and the retention ratio of the HR. Shall we move forward?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. Any questions if you have in between you want to ask me, I would request you can drop down those messages. Last 15-20 minutes or 15 minutes we'll keep for the interaction of all your queries, and anything in between where you feel this part needs to be like repeated again, that also you can mention that in the chat box and I'll talk about that concept again. Okay. So let me now tell you about what are the objectives of HR. If I talk about objectives of HR, there are various objectives of human resource management. And the basic objective of HR management is basically to obtain maximum from the individual development, try to develop a desirable working relation between the employer and the employee, or I can say between the employees and the employees. That means the two people working in the organization. That is what is the HR objective is. And that is what basically affects also the organization's, goodwill. It affects the organization's climate. So somebody has unmuted. Musa Umar, I request you to please mute yourself. Okay, I have muted you because it was creating noise and I was not able to, share my content. So if I say what are the objectives of human resource management, broadly we can classify them into 4 different folds. First is societal objective, second is organizational objective, third is functional, and fourth is called as personal objective. Let me take each one of them one by one. Talking about societal. I would like to give you an example here by saying that if I talk about ultimately for any organization which is working, their main objective is that they need to fulfill the demands or the needs of the society, and socially and ethically also at times when we talk about the societal objectives which HR basically tries to manage, the human resource tries to manage in the organization, is related to the hiring when you do in the organization. I'm taking just one example in that area. What do I mean by it? Laws which are formulated by the government, they basically try to do, or rather come up with the laws where they come up with equal employment opportunity law, which is also called as EEO, equal employment opportunity policy. This policy basically states that there would be no discrimination, or rather there should not be any discriminations done on the basis of gender, on the basis of caste, on the basis of any kind of religion, on the basis of nationality, and the one who is having knowledge, skill, and ability to perform a particular task should be given that opportunity to work in the organization. So, as a societal objective, what HR does? HR tries to fill that gap, that recruitment or procuring of HR is not done only with limited HR or with a reserved category of human resource, but it is basically where you try to procure HR from the entire society as a whole. You try to cover certain areas which are the prime concern of the society. Like if I talk about the pandemic period, that is the COVID period, which is just passed in the last 2 years, that was demand of the society at that time, that the HR has to take care of the human resource which is working, to take care of their medical needs, to take care of the compensation, or rather I would say the monetary needs of the human resource, to provide them with basic facilities. So that is something which was demand of the society at that time. So if you're associated with a company, you're working as an HR in an organization, it is the objective of the HR as a subject as a whole to take care of the societal objectives and needs in the society where you are doing your business. Second objective, if I say, or the second, I would say, fold of the objective, if we say, it is organizational objective. This term says every organization has certain objectives. There are different types of objectives. We have organizations where to earn profit is the only objective of the organization. And also we have organizations where we say they have the objective to serve the society. So whatever is the objective, for whichever purpose the organization is working, it is very important that the human resource which is working in the organization should bring out that organizational, or should, I would say, support in the accomplishment or achievement of that organizational objective. HR in itself should try that the primary objective, as I just said, whether it is to earn profit or it is to serve the society, it should try that they are supporting the organization in accomplishment of the primary objectives. So that is something what we mean by organizational objectives. So human resource, basically, if they are working in the organization, they have certain goals, they have certain targets, and the prime goal and target is to accomplish the organizational goals and objectives of that company. Third objective of HR, if we say, is to maintain the different functions which the HR, I would say, as a subject as a whole, which tries to cover. Certain functional objectives of human resource management are not only to take care of the managerial aspect, but also to take care of the human resource management different functions what are performed. So at every level, the HR which is working had certain functions. Like I just gave you a few examples in when I was introducing about this content, that there are procurement functions, compensation function, training and development function, maintenance function of HR. So at every level in the organization, departmental level, organizational level, individual level, the HR should try that tailor-fit organization should be, I would say, customized kind of things are to be planned out so the organizational functions can be accomplished. Last but not the least, if I say, it is the personal objectives. Every individual working in the organization, or every HR, if I say, working in the organization, has certain personal goals. There is a difference between these two terms, personal and personnel. Personnel. Personal means individual. Whereas when I say personnel, personnel, that is related to human resource which is working in the organization. So please do not get confused with these two terms. Initially, or rather if I say now, we call this entire study as human resource management. It was initially called as personnel management. That is also taking care of the human resource, but the scope was not that wide. So that is the reason we differ these two terms, that is personnel and the HR management. So the individual objective, if I say, what are the individual objective of the employees? They are working in the organization because they want to get good salary. They want to earn, get good rewards. They want to be a part of that organization. They want to be motivated. How these personal objectives can be accomplished, how management plans or how the HR actually plans that these individual areas should be given proper attention. Focus should be done on these areas to maintain them, retain them, motivate them, so that ultimately the performance of the employee, we see that it is improving, it is enhancing. Because higher is the satisfaction level of the HR, we see higher is the productivity. So, and less is the employee turnover. That is what we also called as attrition. I've just explained you that concept. Employee turnover is also a synonym to the attrition. That is mobility, leaving of the HR from the organization. In the module, first module which we are covering today, when you will refer these notes from your e-Gyan Kosh, you will find that the HR objectives and what are these functions which support the accomplishment of these objectives are given. So please go through them. Societal objectives, organizational objectives, functional and the personal objectives, what I've just discussed with you in the few minutes, just few minutes back. Is the objective or are the objectives of the HRM clear to you? Can we proceed further?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much, my dear learners. Now we'll move ahead with more of, I would say, basic concepts of HR. If I say about the importance of HR, we have been discussing so much about it now that how the entire concept, the approach for HR has changed. So at different levels, that is at corporate level, it has its own significance. If I talk about at the professional level, that is when people are working in the organizations at an individual level, it has its own significance and importance. Social significance is also there for the people, those who are working in the organization. I'll just read out few points from there so that when you refer this content, you are able to connect with what I'm saying. Significance at the corporate level is basically we are talking about at the organizational level. To have good HR, to have effective HR, you are able to attract them, retain them, plan out, different things for them, do proper recruitment selection. It happens only if you are able to manage the human resources. As I just said, from the different functions of HR, this is one of the functions, that is procurement. So how it is significant to a company or an organization or a corporate? If you're able to do proper HR management, you will able to get effective HR. You will able to do proper manpower planning. You will able to come up with good sources of recruitment. You will be not wasting money in finding out people who are required to do a certain job for you. You will be able to come up with proper selection methods which actually fits that particular nature of job for which you are hiring employees. And also it is beneficial in planning the induction or the orientation programs for the human resource which is recruited in the organization. Similarly, for the corporate level, if I say, to get the cooperation from the employees, to keep them motivated, to handle their grievances, to get effectiveness at the workplace from the available HR which is there. These are all different types of significance or the importance, if I say, of having proper human resource management in the organization. Social significance, if I talk about, it is that when you have proper HR management, it is very significant to the society as well. You are giving dignity to the labor. You are giving dignity to the human resource. You are giving them employment. You are satisfying their psychological needs by giving them job which matches their skill set, by giving them job which is matching their knowledge level, their ability level. So to maintain that balance between the demand and the supply in terms of the numbers, qualifications, needs, and aptitude is also something which is bringing a development in the society as well. So it is not only it is the benefit which is happening for the corporate, but also it is something which is benefiting the society at large. So eliminating waste of human resources is also one very significant area through proper management of human resource. Broader, if I talk about, that is at the national level, that is at your country's level. So the countries where people are backward, they are not actually able to do proper recruitments, hire people, then that's the reason, that is the area where they lack in growth and development also. If you are able to utilize your human resource to best of their knowledge, to best of their skills, to best of their attitudes, values, what they have, ultimately it will help you to grow in the organization, and the nation is also going to grow. So HR is, as I said, it is one of the very important factor. So proper and effective exploitation in a positive manner. We don't mean to say your exploitation of HR in a negative sense, but it means proper effective utilization of human resource at the national level will definitely impact the growth and the standard of living of the people in that particular country, in that particular society. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to come to very important unit, because I see we have already, finished 1 hour of our academic counseling, and I have given you a brief about. I've tried to give you a brief about, the concept of HR, its evolution, the significance of this particular subject, that is human resource management. And as I said, when we started with these blocks, that function of HR is something which is really very, very important, and a very important area in a sense. It gives you a complete clarity about all your coming topics in your syllabus. So what we need to do is now from here on, that is your unit 2, please be more attentive and try to understand these functions with me, because if you are clear with these functions, you will be very easily able to connect with the concept in the coming units. Now, talking about the functions of HR, if I say, we can broadly classify the functions of human resource management into 2 categories. First category is the managerial function, and second category is the operative function. Let me explain you these 2 terms, managerial and operative. When I say it is managerial, I'm talking about the common managerial functions of every organization. Every organization does planning. Every organization does organizing. Every organization tries to direct, and also the function of managerial function of every organization is to do controlling, that is to measure what they have planned and what they have ultimately achieved or accomplished. These are the basic concepts that any organization, when you talk about, they are into planning, organizing, directing, controlling. But when we talk about operative functions of HR, it means more about day-to-day functions. That means when people are there, as it is HRM, so we are going to focus the entire thing on human resource. When I talk about operative functions of human resource, it is basically HR sourcing, which I said initially, also called as procurement, also called as employment function, also called as HR sourcing function. The HR management does another, or has a very important another function, which is called as performance and development function. You will refer different authors, the books of different authors in this particular subject. So you will find that they have used these synonyms: procurement, employment, for HR sourcing. You write any in your answer, you write procurement, you write employment, you write HR sourcing, the answer to that is the same. So it is, it is correct. Second function of HR is performance and development. In this function, what are the sub areas or subtopics which are covered? I'll come to that later in just coming few minutes. Third important area or function of HR is compensation function. Compensation basically is a function which deals with wages and salary. So I'll be briefing you about here what actually is job evaluation, how is it different from performance evaluation, what is wage and salary administration, what do HR managers do in this area or in this function of compensation. That is, we will be talking in the third function, third operative function of HR. Fourth operative function of HR is called as integration. What is to integrate in a layman's language? Can any one of you just tell me? Can any one of you tell me what do we mean by this word integrated? Have you heard about
Hello,
this
ma'am.
word integration?
Can I answer?
Yes, please go ahead.
Integrated means like incorporated, formed, or united into whole, if I'm not mistaken, please.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Integration, basically, when we talk about, and when I say integration as a function, that means to bring your HR together, to involve them, to engage them, to boost their morale, to do counselings with them, to come up with different welfare schemes, to talk about certain ethics and different HR measures through which you can able, or you are able to integrate the HR in the organization. They're part of your organization. They're not leaving. So these are the measures what companies or the organizations do to finally integrate the HR. So this is one of the functions of HR management, that what type of different measures can they come up with so that the HR is integrated to the organization. That was what integration means. Last function and not the least function of HR management is employee relation. So employee relation is basically which deals with different employees working in the organization. They have certain grievances, they have their certain issues, they have certain discomforts, and they want to address that. They want that these kind of grievances should be redressed. Proper solutions are given to these problems. So employee relation as a function in itself is one area where HR manager deals with maintaining healthy relationships between the employees, between employer and employee, coming up with different disciplinary measures, I would say, coming up with different procedures, different policies, How do they manage unions which are working in the organization? How do they come up with different, I would say, policies in which the union is happy, the HR is happy and satisfied? That is all what is about the employee relation as one of the function of HR. Now let me talk about each function in detail. If I talk about the first function, see, these are few things which are written about the managerial function. I've just spoken about it, so I'm moving quickly with it, and I request you also to please go through this content. What planning is? Planning is basically to determine a course of action, what management wants to achieve. So we are talking about in general managerial functions. So it deals about planning done at the organizational level related to the human resource need, related to the changing values, related to the recent trends, and how do you plan your HR? How do you actually train them, recruit them, select them? So that is also one managerial function of HRM. Then it is organizing. How do you organize healthy relationship? You give them proper work. You define certain work for them. In which manner you give them, that is organizing as a function. Direction in itself means that to give them a proper execution of the plan. So if you plan something for them, direction in itself says as a managerial function, how do the employee working in the organization can be directed to achieve or to help in attaining the organizational goal. As you all know, leader plays a very, very important role in the accomplishment of the objectives. So if you give a proper direction to the employee, it is well coordinated. Employees, knows that what is actually demanded from him or her from the management. It actually leads to better productivity. And finally, as I just said, controlling is one of the functions of managerial functions of HR. What you have planned and what you have achieved, that is measured through controlling. So controlling is doing basically a kind of audit, to see that what are the deviations which have come, what is your standard, what you have set for the employee, what are those things what you have actually thought for that the HR is going to accomplish, and in reality what is their performance. As I just said, that the second category of the HR functions is operative function, and this is all what is your, I would say, syllabus all about. Operative function is basically related to certain specific activity of managing employees. We also call that as operative, that means day-to-day function. When you have people working with you in the organization, you need to employ them also, you need to develop them also, you need to compensate them also, and you need to maintain a healthy relationship with them as well. So there are certain operative functions. Let us talk about the first operative function, which is called as HR sourcing. As I just said, recruitment. We hear this word very, very commonly, and we use also this word in a very layman's language. Can anyone tell me what recruitment means to you? Yes, anybody, my dear learners?
I think it's to hire a people according to the position. Did you hear me?
Yeah, Asad, I was able to hear you, Asad Mustafa. Your answer is absolutely right. I would like to hear from others also in the class.
To recruit means to source resources so that you can use them.
Hakim, I'm not able to get your answer clearly. Can you repeat that again?
So, to recruit means to source resources.
It's a process.
To source resources.
It's a resource.
To source resources.
Okay, can you just
I
write
think
that in the chat box? It would be more clear for me.
okay. I think is the process of employing a particular person for a certain role to play in an organization.
Very good. Very, very close answer to it. Very good. My second question, which follows this, is how do we do recruitment? Yes, Francis?
We basically look at the fields of need for an organization. Then sometimes there are advertisements that are made in relation to those positions. Then, of course, sometimes there could be a need for interviews, sometimes even for practical realization of somebody's ability to deliver. Yeah, so just to add on to what others have said, it's actually a way of engaging employees either on a casual basis or on a contract basis or permanent basis, but relating to particular fields of interest for an organization.
Yes, Francis, you have said the answer. You've covered many areas in that. I would like to hear from few more in the class. You're going in the right direction. You said, I was just asking you, how do we do recruitment? Or if I talk about, you said recruitment is hiring people, right?
Yes, in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Can I say that it is a positive process?
Yes, indeed, it's a positive process.
Okay. Kameez Mohammed, my next question to you is, you said indeed it's a positive process. Do you think recruitment and selection are same?
No, recruitment and selections are not the same.
Okay. So what is the difference between the two?
Well, in recruitment, you invite people to apply for that certain position that you require in your organization, while in selection, you choose the best candidate for the job.
Okay. So you have given me what is the difference between recruitment and selection, and which is absolutely correct. There is a step forward, a step before recruitments are done, before selection are done. Can anybody, or have you heard about what is that step called as? If I say that in my organization there is a vacancy and I want to recruit people, as you said, recruitment is inviting people for a particular job. So, how do I do it? What is the first step prior to recruitment, which will help me
I
to
would
do
say
proper?
the
Well,
interview process.
okay, I would like to say there is job descriptions which you will set in place.
Okay. And
I would like to say
Performing
you first do
interview.
a needs analysis.
can you repeat your answer? I was not able to hear you.
You do, before recruitment comes up, there's an opening. You first do a needs analysis of what you require before you advertise. Then from the needs analysis, what you want that person, the qualities, the skills, the attributes of the person required, that you write them up, then you place an advert. So, but you first do a needs analysis. Yeah.
That is called as manpower planning. Okay. You said about need analysis, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you are correct. When we talk about recruitment, when we talk about inviting people for a particular job in the organization, prior to that, it is very important for the manager to first understand whether there is excess or whether there is shortage of human resource in the organization. If supposingly there is shortage of human resource, then you go for recruiting, inviting people, selecting the best person having knowledge, skill and ability to do a particular job. And if suppose I have excess of people, I request again to please mute yourself. Jibril, please mute yourself.
Okay, ma.
Okay, so I was just saying that if there is excess of human resource, what do? We do not go for hiring people, because already there are more number of HR which is working in the organization, and ultimately it is leading to what? It is leading to higher cost. Why we say it is leading to higher cost? Because if people are working with you in the organization, you need to pay them, you need to compensate them with either wages or with salary. So if you do proper manpower planning or human resource planning, you will come to know that if you have excess of HR, you need to retrench them. Again, I'm using a vocabulary of HR here. Retrenchment means dismissal of an employee from the organization, which is also called as termination. Layoff, retrenchments are done if you have more number of people what is required in the organization. So HR planning helps you to do both the things, to understand whether it is shortage or whether it is excess of HR. I've given you example of the first one, that is, if you have more number of HR working with you, it will lead to higher cost, and ultimately what you need to do is you need to lay off them, you need to retrench them. Let's come to the second side of manpower planning, that if you have done manpower planning and you came to know that there is shortage of human resource, then what do? You try to understand there are different methods of doing this assessment, doing this analysis of manpower. We do it by interviews, we do it through observations, we do it through different questionnaires are floated to the existing HR, and we try to get their voice that whether they are excessively burdened with the work. And finally, if we come to know that the work is more and human resource is less, so we go for hiring of HR, which is called as procurement of human resource. So prior to we go for inviting HR in the organization, that is what is called recruitment. We first understand whether you need to go for recruitment or not. And if yes, then which department, which person having what skill set, what knowledge level, what ability level, what kind of, we say that as KSA analysis, that is knowledge, skill and ability analysis is done. And then we try to understand that if suppose I need to hire a person, I need to procure a person, then which job, which rank, which level the procurement needs to be done, and in what number. I hope I'm clear with this difference between your manpower planning, recruitment and selection.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so moving further.
Yes, you are clear.
Okay, thank you, Farida. If I talk about the first function, that is procurement function of human resource, that deals with this area only. It starts with manpower planning. It further proceeds to recruitment. If I have done a planning and I'm clear that people are to be hired, so I'll go for recruitment, that is inviting them. Prior to recruitment, in the manpower planning process, I would be doing proper job analysis. You will be discussing this with me tomorrow in the class, in the academic counseling session. We'll go more in detail with this function. For now, just understand that when we talk about recruitment, prior to that, we do manpower planning. If shortage, we go for recruitment. If excess, we go for firing people or terminating people. Now, once you know that there are people who are, let's say, less in number, so what do? You have started the recruitment process. You will be hiring them. You will be selecting them. There are different I would say, sources of recruitment. Source means different ways in which you can look for people. There are internal sources, there are external sources. Internal means within the organization, you look for people, those who are working. If you have people having certain knowledge, skill, and ability which is required for a job, which is, let's say, at the higher level, so you will be promoting the existing employee. On the contrary, if you do not have people having that knowledge, skill, and ability, then what do? You go for another source of recruitment, that is through external sources, looking for HR outside the organization. Procurement, that is the first function of HR, deals with all these areas. The HR manager or the procurement manager does manpower planning, recruitment, selections, induction, and placement. What is induction and placement now? Induction means orientation. Any newly inducted employee who joins an organization, it becomes very important for the management to give them a brief introduction about the entire organization, about the department, about the people, about the goals, objectives, strategies, their strength, their achievements, and all different areas. So that induction program, orientation program is planned for the employees so that they are at ease. Then finally, when you do induction, you do orientation program with them, you place them at that particular department where they have to perform their duties or responsibility. This is all which is covered under the first function of HR management operative function, that is called as procurement or sourcing function or employment function. In tomorrow's class, academic counseling, when we will meet, I will start with second module, which is all about this first function. Let us come to the second function, or the broad, I would say, second category or the second function of HR, which is called as your development function. This development function is also called as performance and development function. I have stopped my sharing of my screen. I'm sharing the screen again because I was just doing an interaction with you. Can you see the screen again?
Not yet.
Okay. As it is visible, just let me know.
Yes, I can see.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Asad. Now, let us talk about the performance and development function. Now, if I take this as a story for you to understand, see what is happening in the organization. There was a requirement. You have done manpower planning. You have seen that there were vacancies. You have understood that there was requirement of the HR in the organization. So you have gone further with recruitment, selection. You have found a person, you've inducted them, you have placed them. Now, when that person starts working with you in the organization, second broad function of HR on everyday basis is to measure their performance and to train and develop them. Let us talk about performance appraisal first, and then we'll come to training and development. Performance appraisal in itself means evaluation of the employee's performance on the job which he or she is performing in the organization. Now, how do you do this performance evaluation? There are different methods for doing performance appraisals or evaluation. Your third block is all about this function, that is performance appraisal, evaluation, and its methods, that we will be covering on 22nd. Once you do evaluation of the employee, you come to know whether they are able to perform that job as per the standard or they are unable to do it. If my employee in the organization is able to do As per the requirement of the job, I have not to give them any training. But vice versa, if I say, if they're unable to do a particular task as per the requirement of that job, I need to conduct, I need to plan certain training programs for them. So this function of HR deals with what? It deals with imparting knowledge, that is imparting technical and operational skill and knowledge to the employees working in the organization. Now, there is a difference between training and development also. In detail, you can read that content which is available with you. I would again like to give you a difference between what these two terms mean, training and development. Usually, when we talk about learners, training, it is given to the employees working in the organization doing the operative jobs. I have already explained you what is this word operational means. That is day-to-day work. Suppose if you want an employee to learn some basic skills, that is how to work on a software, how to take online classes, or let's say how to conduct, how to do certain apply certain analytical tools on a specific data. So you would be providing training to that employee or to group of employees. You will make them learn that operational thing which is to be done from their end on a daily basis. And once you make them learn that thing, you will be evaluating their training, that whether they have learned or not, by doing a small test or by conducting an evaluation, training evaluation. So it will help you to understand that training program was effective. But when I talk about development, it is something which is not tested in a short duration of time. Development is something where I have in my mind that I have my upcoming managers. So we call this more as a kind of an approach where we talk about executives to be developed, where we talk about the managers to be developed in the organization. So training is given to the employees, development is done for the managers. Understood the difference? Training is given for the operational jobs. Development is done for the managers, where you work on their managerial skills. So it is basically seen over a period of time. You spend months, you spend weeks to work on the overall personality of that executive, of that manager, because he is not only going to work on a single area where he or she has to just reflect the knowledge or skill what he has, but he also has to deal with people. You also need to work on the personality of his or her. You also need to work on the overall development of that employee. So different methods, employee development programs are conducted. We also call that as MDP programs, which is called as management development programs. And with that, we try to develop the employees in the organization. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. So that is what is the second function of HR deals with. That is training the employee, developing the managers, doing career plannings with the existing people or the existing HR. So you tell them what is the career path for them, what they need to achieve, where are they standing right now, what is the future of their in that particular company, in that industry, what certifications, qualifications they need to upgrade in themselves, so that they can be promoted at a higher rank or a higher job. So this is all career planning and development, I would say part of one of the your performance appraisal and development function deals with. Then comes your third function, which is called as your compensation function. Compensation management or compensation function means what? It is basically when you say that when a person is working with you, you need to compensate him or her. How do you compensate him? We compensate an employee by giving fair wages, which is also said as providing fair, equitable, and adequate remuneration to the employees. So how do you do this? How do you calculate the fair wage, the equitable wage, or the adequate wage which needs to be given to the employee working in the organization. So that is done through job evaluation. This is again your third block. I will be dealing in detail what is job evaluation, how does it differs from performance evaluation, and how do we do job evaluation and performance evaluation. These two terms are completely different from each other. So in this function for now, just understand conducting proper wage and salary surveys, understanding the wage rates which are prevalent in that particular industry, doing certain analysis, administering the wage and salary programs, coming up with a proper incentive payment scheme, coming up with various kinds of periodic evaluation, planning out things where and how you can provide them incentives and bonuses, fringe benefits. Fringe means various benefits regarding house, conveyance, legal, canteen, recreational, educational, medical, all these facilities, how can it be provided to them? That is all it deals with your compensation, because this is all which is talking about giving them a kind of compensation, remuneration for the task and the work what they do for you in the organization. Fourth function of HR is said to be of integration. I have just explained you a few minutes back what this word integration means, and you have given me the right answer to bring them together, to keep them together, to develop a sense of relationship between individual workers, management, trade unions is all about integration function. So what does HR manager does? In this function, he takes care about how employee engagement can be done, how you can assign them different type of job which is matching their skill set so that they are highly productive. You get cooperation from the employees if they are psychologically, economically, and socially satisfied. So boosting their morale timely, coming up with different motivational plans and schemes, addressing their grievances, developing a good leadership skill, having a proper communication channel, that is a two-way communication channel, giving them an amicable work environment, providing them with quality of work-life facilities, giving them the chance of participation, reducing their fatigue, monotony, and boredom, also are part of your integration function. Doing proper counseling to solve their personal problems, family problems, because this is all something which will create stress. And if an employee is into stress, he will not be able to, or she will not be able to give his or her best. So what is done through these counseling sessions? You try to redress, vent out, give them space so that they can vent out all these stress and focus only on the work which is given to them. So that is the function which deals with that area. Last function, if I talk about, is maintaining employee relation. Employee relation is basically a concept of industrial relation. That is your last block in the syllabus. As I said, and I've been telling you again and again, dear learners, that if you understand these functions, you will be able to understand your entire block and units. Employee relation basically means to maintain healthy relation between different employers in the same industry, relation between different employees in the same industry, relationship between government and trade union. So there are different areas what are covered in this. They are called as collective bargaining, industrial conflicts if they are there, how workers can participate in the management. These are all topics which we will cover in your fourth module. That is your fourth block. Am I clear with all the functions of your human resource management?
Yes, you are.
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I have tried to give you an introduction about HR, entire function, importance, meaning, need, so that it gives you a clarity in the first class about the entire subject. As I said, when we'll move ahead with the academic counseling sessions, I will be focusing, or I will be talking about these functions only. So in the next class, when we meet, I request you that you please read the content which is available on eGyanKosh, so that we are able to discuss those things. Because my dear learners, each and everything in this academic counseling, it would be really difficult for me to talk about each and one detail, thing. Coming to the third and the last area for your first block is your environment. That is, how is environment affecting, or how is environment related with HR? Let me broadly explain you a few things, and then you can read the content which is available to you. There are many other things which are covered in that content, which is very important also. That is role of HR manager. If you will quickly go through the content, you will see that there are certain emerging roles of HR managers which are mentioned, that we call as HR manager plays role of administrator, or he has certain administrative roles. He has certain operational roles, and he also has certain strategic roles. To brief you on this very quickly, I'll just explain you the areas which are covered in all these three categories. Administrator is basically a role which the HR manager does, where he takes care of the legal compliances. So all the paperwork, HR practices, legal forms, how it is going to affect the company, human resource, what are the changes which is done by the government, and accordingly what changes needs to be done in the organization. So he plays the administrative role. That is the first role of the HR manager, to inform the management about legal compliances. Operational role, if I talk about, is what we have just discussed. That is hiring people, managing them, understanding the different types of relationship what they have, having healthy relationship, addressing to their relationship issues, giving them counseling, understanding, providing proper training. These are all operational activities or actions what the HR managers do. And last but not the least, as one of the role which the HR manager has to play is of the strategic roles. Strategy formulation or strategic role is basically policy formulation. So that is something which covers your planning, HR planning. What planning needs to be done with the top management, how HR strategies are to be evolved, how the HR's effectiveness can be evaluated, what are the ways in which business strategies can be drawn, organizational strategies can be drawn. These are all the strategic roles or the contributions which the HR manager does. To list a few, if I say, evaluating, let's say there is a merger happening of two companies. So the HR manager would be doing strategic analysis and would be telling the company that what are the strengths which the HR has, what will be the structural change, what is the requirement of staff, human resource, what is the organizational compatibility between the two companies which are going to merge. So to do proper workforce analysis, to understand whether the expansion of workforce needs to be done, to come up with different revised compensation plans, incentives plans. This is also strategy formulation, because ultimately, what do HR manager want? He wants to integrate the entire HR so that HR manager can fulfill the demand of the employees and also fulfill the requirement of the management. He is basically a linking pin between the two. That is the employee and the top management. So he has to play both the sides. He has to take care of the employees' demand, and he also have to convince the employees related to the demand of the management. So what management demands from them, what they actually look forward from the employees, That is also the HR manager tries to convince the human resource and get that done. I hope some clarity you might have got related to the roles of the HR, what they play.
Yes.
Okay. Now, quickly, in another 5 minutes, I would like to brief about the last part of your block 1, that is organizational environment. There are different, I would say, factors which influence HR. Just give me a second. I'll show you that particular content, which will become easy for you to relate with. Wherever I feel that, more of interaction needs to be done and I need to discuss that with you, I have stopped sharing the screen, and now as I again want you to see something which is there on the slide in that PDF document. I repeat again, this entire content is available with you on your eGyan Kosh. So please do refer that. As you can see, organizational environment, when we talk about it, can be classified into 2 broad categories, external and internal. The name itself, it is giving you an understanding about external factors, something which is beyond the control of the organization. And if I say internal factor, something which is within the control of the organization. Any organization which is operating in that particular environment has certain factors which are uncontrollable, and you just have to accept them. Those factors include the political changes, it includes the economic changes, the government regulations, policies, technological changes which happen, the workforce demography which comes. That means change in the HR which is available, supply of the HR at the industry level. I'm not talking from the HR supply in the organization. We are talking about external factor. So demographic means the population, the skill, the knowledge, the ability of the population of that particular workforce which is available. Because ultimately, when I do recruitment, when I do hiring, I'll be looking for the people from my population. What is their skill set? How knowledgeable they are? How skillful they are? An external factor also includes legal factors. So these are all those factors which are beyond the control of the organization, but organization needs to abide by these factoral changes which happens. Whereas internal factors, if I talk about, they are all those which are within the control. Let us see what are the internal factors which are listed. If you look at that diagram which is there, it talks about organizational structure, strategy, culture, compensation, union. This is all internal. Any day I want to change my structure of the organization, I can. Any day I want to change the strategy of my organization and want to bring a change in the working, I can always do that. The culture of the organization can also be changed because it is again internal factor which is affecting the employee's performance. Union, that means the people, those who are working with you collectively, they make the union. That also is an internal factor where you can convince them, you can have a word with them, you can try to get the thing sorted with them. And as last thing which is mentioned there is compensation. We have talked a detailed discussion we have done about what compensation is. So I hope you have an understanding about the wage and the salary or the remuneration which is to be given. So again, for me as an internal factor, when I say in the organization, I can always increase the wages or reduce the wage structure of my organization depending upon the demand in the external environment. So these are all those factors which affect the organization, and the management has to abide by all these types of internal and external factors. Neither can you, you can just leave the external factors and you can just go ahead with your own policies. In short, we call them as PESTLE. That is an acronym which is used for it, which is called as, which says P for political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal environment. External factors are all uncontrollable and you just have to abide by those changes. which are happening in the external environment. I hope the clarification what I have given you related to the environment is clear, and how it is bringing an impact on the human resource which is working. That once you will read the content, it is going to be more clear to you. I'm open for questions now because we are left with hardly 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, any concerns, you can put that in the chat box and I can answer you. I can see one question is there. Usman, you have mentioned that what is paternalistic concept? Usman, are you there with me right now? Okay, you can mute yourself. Paternalistic, as I just said, it is more like of a father. Paternal and maternal. We use these words for our parents. Like paternal is used for father and maternal is used for mother. When I talk about paternalistic concept, it is said usually fathers in family, they take care of the members, the family members, about their well-being, right, about their needs. So in the same manner, I was talking about how the concept of HR has evolved. So from the concept, from that particular thought that HR was considered as a commodity, it changed to factor of production, that it is one of the assets of the very important factor of production. And then it changed to that the employer, they suddenly came up with different approaches, welfare schemes, plans, so that they can do the betterment of the employees, those who are working. So as a father takes care of the members in the family, same manner, paternalistic concept says employer taking care of the employees working with them in the organization. So how do they take care of them? By providing them fair wages, by giving them a full chance to showcase their knowledge, skill, and ability, by coming up with different welfare schemes for them, by understanding their demands, giving them work which matches their job profile, and be protective for them, to take care about them, and just not to assign them role and responsibility for that particular task, and it is done. So that is the change which has come up as a paternalistic concept of HR. Usman Nasir, I hope I am clear to you. I think there's some, there's some little problem, I guess, from your end. You can put that in the chat box.
Yes, doctor. You have made mention and discussed about formal and informal groups, and I wanted to be clear about this formal group. Does that mean that the formal groups are departments and units which were created by the human resources management?
Absolutely. Yes. If I talk about, let's say, committees, if I talk about departments, if I talk about people placed in different departments, these are all formal groups. Management is placing you. Management is deciding which committee will be there, which cell will be working, which department is going to work. That is all formal. In just simple understanding, if I say, that is where you say formal, it is made by the management, top management.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I request all dear learners that for tomorrow when we meet, please do read the block 1 and also come prepared with block 2. You can just have an overview of block 2, block 1 I have done with you, so that when I discuss with you tomorrow block 2, you have questions, you can ask me content that, ma'am, I have read this part and I would like to know more about this area. Smriti ma'am?
Yes, Rasmeet ji.
I think we can conclude the counseling for today.
Okay.
I've tried to complete block 1.
Okay.
And we have planned for tomorrow, we will be discussing block 2, ma'am.
Yeah, it's according to the academic counseling schedule.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
need to follow that, and as well as the learners need to follow that. And I hope this session was good for you, dear
I
learners.
think my learners can give a good response on that, that whether I was able to, orient them about the basic concept of HR, and they are aware about some part of what actually human resource management means.
I'm also learning some management. So, it's yes, Farida. You want to tell? You want to ask something, Farida?
Not much, but yeah, the session has been good, and we have absorbed so much. So it's a good start. Thank you so
Very
much.
good. So, and remember, tomorrow morning, tomorrow we are going to have. Tomorrow is Saturday, so you all must be having your weekends. So on weekends we have organized 2 classes. One is from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. as per Indian Standard Time. Please convert it. It's around, I think, 10:30 in Nigeria. So please convert time according to Lee, because I have seen in group, and please discuss this in group, because it's not possible for me to convey time each time on each email. I have already sent you the reference links. So please, each time you can discuss in the group also that in which country, what would be the time, so that other learners can also know. And it was a great session. Thank you very much. Chipulum. Please pardon me. I'll take only first 2 letters. CM. Please.
Yes, Chipulumucho.
It's very nice name. I need to practice it.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Yeah, long one, but okay. Please tell. If you want to say something.
No, yeah, the session was good. We've learned a lot of things. Yeah, looking forward to the next sessions.
Okay, and tomorrow at 2 p.m. we are having MMPC 007 first block. So be prepared and go through the first block of MMPC 007. And after that, in evening of India, like at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time, we are going to have session with Rasmeet Kaur ma'am for MMPC 002. So be prepared. And I thank Rasmeet for the wonderful session. Thank you, everyone. And we'll meet tomorrow.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm stopping the recordings.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.